So participants, you already have the shared drive with you. We will start with the introduction to Jupyter Notebook. So what is Jupyter Notebook? It's an offline IDE which will help you to run your Python programs. If you have a system with a good capacity of RAM, GPU, then you can install Jupyter Notebook in your system. You can either install the Jupyter Notebook directly or you can use Anaconda here. So this is link is already shared with you. If you want to download it in your system, you can go ahead. As we have very less time, that is 1.5 hours, and we will try to complete all the necessary packages and the required installation so that in upcoming labs, it will be helpful for you. So you can download the Anaconda, and it has multiple packages in it, like Jupyter Notebook is there, Spider is there, R package is there. So what is Jupyter Notebook? It's an offline IDE which you are going to use. And if you want to work offline, please install it for upcoming lab. But here, as the installation, some of you may not have the good capacity system. So instead of Jupyter Notebook, we are going to use Google Collaboratory. So this PDF is again shared with you. You can download it from the shared drive and go ahead with the usage, how you can use it. And we will also demonstrate it, how you can use Google Collaboratory in today's and upcoming labs. So Google Collaboratory is an cloud service provided by Google, which helps you to run your complex CNN, ANN models. It gives you 12 hours of GPU or TPU capacity. GPU is graphics processing unit and TPU is tensor processing unit. Earlier it has K80 backend. Now they have provided some other GPUs also, but if you want to use very high processing GPUs in Google Collaboratory, then you have to go ahead with purchase of Google Colab Plus or Google Colab Plus Plus. So let's start with creation of a new notebook in the Collaboratory. I'm going to do it in this shared folder. You can also create in your drive. So first of all of you please open your drive. All of you please open your Google Drive. Then you have to enable Google Collaboratory in your drive so that you can create a new notebook. So I think you have opened your drive. Now anywhere in your drive, so I have created this folder AIML. You can also create a new folder. You can create a new Jupyter Notebook using Google Colab. You have to click on this plus new button. Go to more option and here you will find Google Collaboratory. If it is not there, all of you please follow the instructions. Click on this plus new button, go to more, and then click on Google Collaboratory. If Google Collaboratory is not there, then you have to click on this option, add a new. Here you have to add a new package in your drive. So in this search panel, you have to search for Collaboratory and click on this Collaboratory CEO logo. As in my case, Collaboratory is already downloaded. I don't have to install it again. I request you all to please install it in your Drive or your Google account. I'm giving you some maybe 20-30 seconds so that you can install it in your Drive. Then we will go ahead with the introduction to Python part. If you have installed Collaboratory in your Drive, you can create a new notebook by clicking on this plus new, more, and then click on Google Collaboratory. It will create a new Collaboratory notebook or Jupyter notebook in the folder where you have created in your Drive. All, please create a new notebook. So you can rename the notebook by clicking on this untitled. Then there are multiple options. If you want to connect your Collaboratory notebook to the cloud service by Google, you have to click on this connect option. There is a message that folder is not opening. It is shared with you all. The folder is, I think, shared with you all. You can open it. Neha ma'am, can you please resolve the issue? Neha ma'am, are you there? Meanwhile, we are resharing the folder. Maybe there is some issue, I don't know. I request you all to please create a new notebook in your Google Drive. So as you can see, after connecting, it is giving us Python 3 environment with 12.7 GB of RAM and 107.7 GB of storage. So this storage is temporary. When you will be disconnected after, maybe if you are connected continuously for 12 hours, after that, all the data available in this disk will be deleted by itself. Here you can see multiple options are there, like file, edit, view, insert, runtime. So in this option, you can download, open, multiple options are there. As per your requirement, you can use it. A very important thing here is the runtime option. When you go to this runtime menu, there is one option, change runtime type. Through that, you can change the runtime type Python 3 or R, or hardware accelerator from none. That is, you are not using currently any type of GPU or TPU machine. If you want to use, you can use GPU or TPU. I am not selecting these options because otherwise your monthly or weekly quota will be exceeded. So whenever it is required, when you are working with large size of data, then only use GPU or TPU. Talking about large size of data, that means you are working with either signals, images, videos, text data, then only it is needed for training the deep neural network. Other options are here. You can go or jump to the sections available in your notebook. Find and replace. The other important option is this files. Here you can upload the file through this option, refresh the current working files, and then this is the option to mount the drive. Again, I request all the participants to please look into this particular option, mount drive, because in upcoming labs, you will definitely need this option. The first option that you will need is runtime. The second is this mount drive option. When you click on this mount drive option, it will be asking you for your permission to mount the this particular notebook to your drive, to access the data from your drive. So when you click on this connect to Google Drive, it will mount your this notebook to the Google Drive. So anyone from you, can you please respond if you are able to reach up to this particular part? Are you able to mount your drive? If yes, please respond in the chat box. Okay. So through this drive option, you can access the content in Drive, My Drive, and there are multiple folders. For example, in AIML folder, I have created this introduction to Python notebook. This current notebook is here. So let's go ahead now. So the complete notebook, which has all the instructions and the examples available for today's lab, is already shared with you. This is the notebook. So through the notebook, we will start with Python basics. Then we go ahead to the Numpy arrays and then OpenCV package, followed by Matlablib. These are the packages which you will need in upcoming labs, Pandas, SKlearn or SKlearn. And then for neural network development, you will need TensorFlow or Keras. One by one, we'll try to cover these parts. And as we have to complete it before like up to 6:30, we'll do only the necessary parts which are needed for upcoming labs. Then those parts only will cover. If you want to go ahead with a particular section, maybe scikit-learn, you want to learn more, or Pandas, we have already provided the URL of the websites of these packages. So you can practice the examples from these websites. So let's go ahead with the Python basics. As all of you know, the very first program in any programming language is printing the particular string, that is hello world. So that in Python, we have print function. Here you can pass any variable or any type of data and it will be printed. The second thing is the data types. So in Python, multiple data types are there. For example, in numeric, we have integer, float, and complex. Then we have Boolean data type, string is there, list is there, tuple, dictionary, multiple type of data are available with us. For example, I'm creating here one variable A. So this is a variable and I'm assigning the value as 10. To check the data type of this particular variable, you can pass it to type A. So as you can see, it is integer type. Similarly, for float, you can use, when you check the type, will be float. Python also supports complex data type. So complexes with real and imaginary part. in Python, to store the character or string, you have string data type. Is suppose we are getting Asia Connect. And then when you check the type, sorry, that is typo. So it is string type. When you will working with neural network or any other type of machine learning based algorithm, you will most of the time needing the list data type. So list is a type similar to array, which stores the data, but it is not necessary that in list similar data will be there. You can store character and like you can store in string and numeric together. So to create list, you have to use brackets, and inside it you can store the data. So it's a list type. To access the data from list, you can use it. The index generally start with 0. You can also access the last element. So to access the last element, you can use -1. -1 is from last. Another data type is dictionary. So dictionary stores the data in the form of key value pair. So whenever you have a need of key value pair, maybe in case of when you are working with data in the form of CSV or Excel file, then this dictionary will be needed. So to create a dictionary, you have to use curly brackets, and then here, for example, key is name. The value is AsiaCon. And then another key I'm creating is course, and corresponding value is AI and ML. When you check the type, it's dictionary. To access the data, you can write key of the dictionary. So these will be the required data types for upcoming labs for data creation or accessing or reading, reprocessing. I think this part is clear to you all, data types. If you have any doubt in this part, you can ask. Then we'll go ahead with the second part, that is if-else statements. Kabir, you have raised hand, so you can write your query in your chat box. Anyone, if you have doubt, please write in the chat box, then we'll go ahead. I request, instead of raising your hands, please write your query in the chat box. part is else and while statements. So other languages we have the two cases like if and then else. Similarly, here also you have to write accordingly. For example, if true is equal to false, then you have to edit places you have colon. In Python, you have to use colon. And second important thing is you cannot write directly in the same indented block. For example, if I will write here, then it will give us error that indentation error. Indentation error expected an indented block after if statement on line number 1. So you have to either give single space, multiple spaces, or tab space so that it will be indented and your code will know that this particular block belongs to if statement. So similarly, I have created else block and then printed else. Another part of this is we have multiple cases. Then instead of using multiple if, you can use in elif also you can give the condition. So as you can see, elif block has executed this time. So this is one of the case. If you need to go ahead with these part if there is a need that if you want to work with more if else or while statement, then you can go to the official website of Python and then you can execute these examples. These are very basic examples we are using so that we can cover all the other parts. Next is loops. So again, in accessing the data, printing the data, multiple times you will need loops for deep neural network data pre-processing and creation. So the very first loop is for loop. Creation of for loop, you can use you can create for loop using multiple options. The very basic is accessing the data from the list. So let's create a list. And then to access the data from this particular list named as data, you can and print it using for loop. You can use for. So when you write for number in data, so from data, one by one number will be accesses. Then use colon. And after that, you have to use indented block. And then you can print number. So you can see 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 like that it has printed. Next is another type of for loop, which you can, instead of accessing data from numbers, there is one option in range. If you want to run the for loop from maybe from 0 to 9, then you can use this range function. So you can see it has started from 1 and reached up to 9. It has not included 10, similar to like indexing. Generally, indexing start with 0 and goes up to n minus 1. So again, this range goes to n minus 1. Because of that, it is 9. Next is while loop. Again, similar to for loop, you can write while loop. While, let's create one variable, and then while count is greater than 1, I'm printing yes. So it has printed count from 9 times. Next is functions in Python. So similar to other languages, you can define a new function. There are some questions in the chat box. One is that do we need to submit this Jupyter notebook file? Do we need to make notes? So the complete notebook with all these examples are available with you. No need to submit this to us. You can practice these examples so that it will be helpful in upcoming labs. So to create a function.
Voice is audible. Some people are saying voice is very clearly audible. Please check your network.
So to create
continue, Purnima.
Yes, ma'am, yes. So to create a function in Python, you have to use keyword def to define a function. Then similar to other languages, you can give a name to your function. I'm giving print data. And then inside it, you can pass the parameters. So I'm using param and then colon. Again, in instead of curly braces, we are using colon. So you have to make sure that your function is indented properly. I'm printing params or parameters. To call a function, you can use print data and pass the parameter. So this is the way you can create a function in Python. These are the very basic steps or necessary part of the Python that you will be needed. Now we will go ahead to the other important packages or libraries that will be needed to create the deep neural network. The very first is Numpy. So Numpy is a Python library which is helping you to work with the numerical part. It is very like if you will talk about other packages like pandas, TensorFlow, Keras, all the packages are built on the top of Numpy only. So it is the base of all other packages. It helps you to run or to execute very complex mathematical operations also. Earlier, we have used the list data type, which is similar to array, but not exactly array. But in Numpy, you have arrays, and using Numpy only, you read your data. When you are working, you will be working with your neural network in maybe tomorrow's and upcoming labs. Then you will read the data inside Numpy only, Numpy data type only, and then you will pass the data to the neural network for training or maybe for prediction. So to import the package, you have to write import Numpy, and generally we alias any type of package because Numpy is a long name. So instead of Numpy, using Numpy again and again, we alias it using as NP. And now instead of NumPy, we can directly use NP and use the facilities available for NumPy. So to create a new array, you can use np.array. And here you can pass or create any array. So let's create an array through a list. And I'm storing it in a local variable. So instead of giving in the form of list, it is telling you that it is an array. Next is, let's create another array and then we will perform some basic mathematical operation. I'm adding these two arrays N1 and N2. So you can see it has performed element-wise addition. Similarly, we can perform other operations like subtraction, multiplication, division of these arrays. Other important aspects of these NumPy array are, one is you can check the dimension of any particular array, what is the shape of array. That will be needed in upcoming labs. What is size of your array? What are the data types of your NumPy array? So one by one, we will check how to perform these operations. So I'm using N1 dot shape. So it is giving us 5 because this is having only one dimension. So it is 0 dimensional. So it's giving us 5 element is there in the this particular array. Then N1 dot ndim to check the number of dimensions. So it is one dimensional array. Then to check the size are 5, that is 5 elements are there. Then N1 dot data type will show you the type of the data. So it is having int 64 data in it. So most of the time you will need this shape option to check what is the shape of your data so that it will be properly reshaped or shaped to pass to the neural network. Other than creation of these arrays, you can also, and instead of NumPy array, you can also create an array of zeros using np.zeros. And here inside zeros function, you have to pass the dimension, in which dimension you want to create, what will be the shape of your array. So suppose you have to create 2 cross 2, you have to pass 2, 2. So it will be creating a 2 cross 2 array with all the elements as 0. Similarly, you can create using np.ones, you can create array with all the element as 1. Another important part of NumPy is whenever you are using creating random values, maybe for neural network development, maybe for weights or biases, the random numbers are generated. But these random numbers are every time when you rerun, a new number will be generated. So to fix the perform the randomization consistently, generally we use seed values. So all the random values will be dependent on these seed values. So for that, you have to use np.random.seed. And inside seed function, you have to pass any integer value. Suppose I am passing 100 here. So the randomization, now we will generate some random numbers. So the randomization will be dependent on this particular integer 100. Every time when you rerun the cell, you'll get the same random array or same random value. np.random.rand n and pass 2 commas 2. So it will create a random array of 2 cross 2. So you can see minus 1.7, 0.34, 1.15. When you rerun, again the same value will be generated. You can see. But if I'll change this seed value, the new number will be generated. So to fix the randomization, to have the consistency in the randomization, you need this seed function. I think up to this part, things are clear to you all. The next package, we have started with Python basics. Now we have done some examples using Numpy. Now we will go to OpenCV. So instead of looking to my notebook, you can open this shared notebook. You can open the shared notebook. All the things are available in the shared notebook. So the next package is OpenCV. That is open source computer vision library. As name already told you that it is a computer vision library which helps you to read, manipulate, or work with the computer vision based tasks which will be having images and videos in it. So if you are working offline, you have to definitely install these packages. If you have instead of Jupyter or offline Python notebooks, you are using online this Collaboratory, no need to install OpenCV. You can directly import the CV using import CV2. So you have to write import CV2. Now you can use the CV2. Now you can use CV2 to read a particular image or maybe video, or you can manipulate these images using this CV2 package. Again, the website, the official website of CV2 is mentioned in the shared notebook. You can go ahead with the website and check what are the multiple options. Like you can resize, you can change the even the color space from RGB to BGR, or other options are there. Based on your requirement, you can use the CV2 package in your images and videos. So first of all, let's read one image. CV2.imRead is the function to read the image. So the first option here, you have to pass the, you can see it is suggesting us. First, you have to pass the file name or path. The second is the flags. In flags, you have to pass multiple options, like maybe the color, you want to read it in the form of color image, or maybe in the form of grayscale or BGR RGB. So that you can pass as a second argument. So the first is the path. Currently, we don't have image anywhere, so we have to upload it. So I am uploading. You can use any image from your folder. Maybe you have it in the drive, or you can upload a new image. So I'm uploading a new image here using this upload to session storage option. I'm clicking on this. You can also upload any image which is available in your system. There is one query that shared notebook is not having any content. Let me open it again. I have like, it is having content, because I don't know why it is not showing to you. So inside course content, day 1, lab. You can see this is the shared file, Introduction to Python. It is having all the content. So please refresh at your site. So now you can see I have uploaded asiacon.jpg image. To pass the path, I'm right clicking on this particular image and then clicking on copy path. And then pasting the path here in function cv2.imread and then pasting the path. And storing this in a local variable img. Then to print this particular image, you have to write cv2.imshow and then pass the image. Now you can see it is giving one error that will be obvious. If you are working with offline Jupyter Notebook, then you will not encounter this particular error. But as we are working with online Jupyter Notebook using Google Collaboratory, it will tell you that this particular function is disabled. cv2.imshow is disabled because whenever you are running cv2.imshow, it will pop up a new window. So to resolve this particular issue, you have to use from google.collab.patches import cv2_imshow. So I'm using this particular suggestion. And then I'm using cv2_imshow function. And then now I am passing the image. You can see now the image is visible. If you want to run this particular example, we can wait for a minute. If you want to run this, please go ahead, upload a new JPG file using CV2. And then instead of cv2.imshow, you have to use this from google.collab.patches import cv2_imshow. And then using this function, you can print the image. Some other options are available in OpenCV, like you can resize, you can change the pixel values, or you can manipulate these images using CV2 package. So you can go to OpenCV website to run all these options. And whenever necessary, we will tell you how to perform these operations in upcoming labs when you will be working with the image part. After OpenCV, another very important library that you will be working with is Matlablib. So Matlablib, as name suggests, it is a plotting library provided by Python to plot the 2D graphs. So for that, you have to import the package from Matlablib. Either you can directly import Matlablib, or you can use from Matlablib to specify the sub part of the package which will be needed. So from Matlablib, we are going to use pyplot, and then we are aliasing it as plt. So as you can plot 2D graph here, 2D plots using this particular package. First of all, you have to create any data. So we are creating one data, years, and then here I'm passing some random values. two lists I am creating. One will be for x-axis and one will be for y-axis. And then using this PLT dot plot is the function which we can use. So for x-axis, I am passing this years, and for y-axis, the two corresponding values, I'm passing India underscore pop, that is population, and I'm running this code. You can see here, starting from 300 to 340, it is in y-axis, and from 2001 to 2005, it is in x-axis. You can manipulate this graph as per requirement. For example, I'm using marker. So I'm using star here. So you can see in place of the data, star will be created. Similarly, you can change the color of the graph. So this is a very basic example of Matlablib. The next is pandas package. When you are working with relational data, maybe data from Excel or CSV file, then to read the data and to work on these relational data sets, you have to use pandas package. Again, you have to install pandas in your system if you are working offline. Otherwise, you can directly import it. Import pandas as PD, and then you can create the data using this pandas package, and then show the data in the form of table or relational form. I'm creating a variable data in the form of dictionary. So dictionary we have already explained you in the earlier part, that has the data in the form of key value pair. So here key is the column name, and then values for corresponding key will be the data inside the cell. The first column I'm creating name, and then data in the form of list. And then second column I'm creating is maybe count of participants from these particular organization. And then to convert this particular data in the form of relational data or data frame, you can pass it to pd.data frame, pass the data and store it in a local variable, that is data frame. It is our data type in pandas, and when you print it, the data frame, it will be printing the data in the form of rows and columns. So I'll wait for a minute so that you can run this particular example, because I think it will be needed in upcoming lab for data reading and pre-processing. Please run it, create a new dictionary and pass it to pd.data frame. to convert this particular dictionary data in the form of data frame. I think now we can go ahead. So the next package is SKlearn that you will be needing for data reading, pre-processing, and various machine learning packages are there like decision tree, SVM package. These type of algorithms are pre-built available there. You can use these for your development of your machine learning algorithm or maybe deep learning based algorithm. It also has various data sets available in it. So to work with SKlearn or SKlearn package, it is built on again Numpy package only. So you have to first of all import this SKlearn. So for that you can use import SKlearn, and then there are multiple data sets available. All the algorithms are already implemented. You can directly access the data, pre-process it, and then pass the data to the algorithm. You can see multiple classification, regression, clustering algorithms are there. You can, for example, I'm opening nearest neighbor here, and from here I'm using k-means. So you can see how to use these algorithms using SKlearn package. So first of all, whenever you are working with any type of data set, you have to read the data. If you have the data in the form of CSV or maybe images form, then you have to read it from your drive. But currently, instead of reading it from our drive, we will read the data from the SKlearn package only. The data set is available in the repository. So from sklearn.datasets, we are going to load the iris dataset. Iris dataset is a flower species dataset. The objective of the dataset is to classify the data in 3 classes that of iris species. The classes are iris setosa, versicolor, and virginissa. So to load the data, you have to write sklearn.dataset.load iris, and you can store it in a local variable. SKlearn.datasets. Let me check why it is not working. Now it is working. From SKlearn, we have to use dataset and then we are importing load iris function from there. So when you print this particular code, you will find out that the data is in the form of dictionary. The key is data, where you will having the actual data that is having 4 attributes. It is the input data, which is having 4 attributes, that is sepal length, sepal width, and petal length, petal width. Based on these 4 features or attributes, you have to classify the data, this data, into 3 classes. The classes are again available. The number of rows are 150, and this is the target. Target is the output vector that you have to in which you have to classify. So 0 is the first class, 1 and second. So the target name is iris setosa. The second target is iris versicolor, and third is virginisa. So to only access the data, you can write iris data. So it will access only the input part. So I am storing it in a local variable input. Similarly, you will be needing the output that is inside target. So you can use output as iris data dot target. So when you have to pass this data in the to your neural network, then you have to first of all make sure that your data is normalized. That is, it should be in the form of in between 0 to 1. And then second is, you have to split the data in 2 parts. That is, one is training and one is testing. Sometimes you have to split the data in 3 parts also. That is training, validation, and testing. Training to train your any machine learning model. Validation is to validate the performance while you are training after maybe 1 or 2 iteration, after each iteration. And then test data to test the performance after your model is finally trained. So the question, there is a question in the chat box that what is target? So data is the input data. Based on that, you have to train the model, and output is the target is the corresponding output. For example, suppose this is the last row or last data from the data set, the last 150th row. The sepal length is 5.9, sepal width is 3, petal length is 5.1, petal width is 1.8. So this, based on these 4 features, you have to identify in which class your data belongs to. For example, it belongs to 2, that is iris iris Varsinisha is the class in which this data belongs to. So accordingly, based on these input vector, the output is this. So our objective is, based on these features, you have to identify the class of the data set. So as explained, first of all, you have to normalize the data using this SKlearn package. And then you have to split the data in training, testing, or maybe training, validation, and testing. So in SKlearn, you have, first of all, let me import SKlearn as SK and then SK dot preprocessing dot normalize. And then let me pass input here. So now you can see our data that not in the range of 0 to 1, it varying to multiple range. Now it is in between 0 to 1. Now your data is normalized. So the normalization part is done. The next part is splitting the data. That is again you can do using SKlearn package. So for that, I think you can also do this particular part. Now we have sufficient time and this part is necessary. So you can import the data from SKlearn and then you can normalize it. I'm splitting the data and then you can try these steps in your system. So in SKlearn only, you have a train test split function. Import sklearn dot model selection. Dot train, and instead of this, let me write from sklearn dot model selection. Import train test split. And then here you have to, this is a function, there you have to pass data. So I'm passing norm input and then output. Then you have to pass, you can see it is suggesting the next thing you have to pass the train size or test size. I'm passing test size. I'm splitting the data 20% for testing, so 0.2. And then random parameter to randomize the split so that not the initial data will be there, not the initial data will be there. It will be random. Like you can see, there is one option, shuffle is there. Which option is by default true. That means your data will be shuffling, but you have to randomize the shuffle. So you have to pass and make sure that the randomization is consistent. So random state you have to pass as an integer value. So I'm passing random state as 100. Same to seed. It will split the data in 4 variables. So train X, test X, train Y, and then test Y. Now, when you check the length, you'll see (120) element out of 150, 120 is in train. In Y again, you will have 120. In test X, you will be having 30. And in test Y, you will be having 30. So now I'll wait for a minute so that you can complete this part. Please run it from this load iris. Please run it in your system. If up to this part you have any issue, please write in the chat box. Because these steps you will be requiring in ANN and CNN when you will be reading data and splitting it. All please run it, and when you are done, report in the chat box by writing done. Or if you are encountering any type of error, that also you can report in the chat box. So there is one query. Can you explain what seed and normalized does? So to see, whenever you are using seed value will help you to consistency in the randomization. And the second is the normalization part. So your data may be in varying maybe from multiple range. Maybe your first column is varying from -1 to 1. Your second column is from 0 to 1000. So what you needed, your data should be in a particular range, maybe in between 0 to 1 or -1 to 1. So there is one option that you can either use min-max scalar to divide each value by the maximum, so that it will be in the range of 0 to 1. So this is the these are the options which are available. Instead of this normalized function, you can create your own function. The next is introduction to TensorFlow, and then we'll go to introduction to Keras. I think this part is completed. So what is TensorFlow? Initially, when neural network were developed, then people were using Numpy only to create the neural network, to pass the data to the network, and then only the very first training which I have taken in IIIT only, at that time the neural network was developed using Numpy only. Now we have multiple open source tools like TensorFlow, Keras, PyTorch, MXNet available, which are some high-end API where you have to just call the function and your neural network will be created and you can train it. It's very easy. No need to hard code everything. All the functions are already available. And then you have to directly call the function, pass the data, and your neural network will be trained. Your objective will be completed. There is one query that I don't understand the iris data, what it is actually. So iris is a plant species or flower species. Based on that particular flower species, you have to classify the iris into 3 different iris flower. One is iris setosa, the second is iris versicolor, or third is the iris virginica. Another query is how the target function is different from data. So the data is your input based on the, for example, if you have to classify, when we talking about images, if you have to classify a particular image belongs to which class, maybe cat or dog. So the input is the image and output is the class, whether it is cat or dog. If you pass the cat image, then you have to pass the target as cat. If you will pass the data or input as a dog image, then the target will be dog. I think now it is clear. So when you are working with neural network development, then you can use TensorFlow or Keras. Earlier, when we were working with TensorFlow 1, so you have to write the training code, you have to create your own layers, you have to initialize weights and biases. But now, after the in last 2 years, TensorFlow 2 was introduced, and then it is having Keras in it. So now instead of directly using Keras, you have to first of all import TensorFlow, and then on the top of TensorFlow, you have to use Keras. So again, the websites of TensorFlow and Keras are provided to you. And the website for Keras is keras.io. So from this TensorFlow website, you can learn how to work with TensorFlow. And here in Keras, you have, this is high-end API, which is having all the data set available. The standard data sets are available. You can directly create the neural network model. Using it, you can train the model. The training codes are already available. You can evaluate the model performance. You can predict the model. Even if your data is in the form of Excel file, maybe it is in the form of images, videos, or maybe text data, everything you can do through the Keras API. The third one is the PyTorch, which is recently come into the picture. And most of the research nowadays are using either Keras or PyTorch for the neural network development. You can click on these examples and you'll find out various computer vision examples are there. Detection, classification, segmentation, and then see these natural language models are there. If you are new in the machine learning or deep neural network based codes, then you can practice from here, and then it will be helpful for a beginner to create a neural network using these applications. So let's start with TensorFlow. You have to import TensorFlow by writing import TensorFlow, and you can alias it using as TF, and then you currently we are working with TensorFlow 2. You can check the version using TensorFlow. That is tf dot underscore underscore version underscore underscore. So it is TensorFlow 2.12. Similarly, you can import Keras. Import from nowadays we don't directly import Keras because it is deprecated after the launch of TensorFlow 2. So you have to use from TensorFlow import Keras. Now again you can check the version of Keras, Keras dot underscore underscore version underscore underscore. So it is same. This is the way I'm explaining both TensorFlow and Keras together because nowadays you have to use Keras on the top of TensorFlow only. You cannot directly work with Keras. So let's go ahead with little more introduction to TensorFlow and Keras, how you can create a neural network using TensorFlow or Keras. First of all, whenever you are creating a neural network, you have to create the model. So in Keras or TensorFlow, there are two types of models available. One is sequential model, one is functional API based model. Sequential model, which takes single input and generate a single output. For functional API based model, you can have multiple input and multiple output. So in today's session, we'll try to execute the code using sequential or create the model using sequential models. And then in upcoming labs, you will have the functional API based model as well. You have already imported TensorFlow. So there are multiple type of layers available. Maybe it will not be clear to you all because this is the very first day. Many of you may not be like familiar to this TensorFlow, Keras, neural network, what are layers. But day by day, you'll understand how these neural networks are created. This is just the introductory session. In upcoming labs, you'll have the complete package, how you can work on these libraries like TensorFlow or Keras to train your model. This is just for the introduction of TensorFlow and Keras. We are not going to create any model or any other type. So to create a sequential model, you have to use tf.keras.models and then sequential function is there. This will be your model. This is one of the way to create the model. So when your model is created, next is you have to create the layers in the model. That you can do using model.add function. In this add function, now first of all you have created a blank model. Now you can add multiple layers in it. So again, the layers are already predefined. If you want to create a simple deep artificial neural network, you have to use dense layer. If you want to use or create convolution neural network, then con layer, max pooling layer, these layers will be accordingly added. So I'm using dense layer, and then you have to pass the neurons or units you want to add. So for example, I have added 10. This is the way you can add the layers in the neural network. So from tf.keras.layers.dense, so this is the way you can create the model, which the complete model will be created in upcoming labs. After your model is created, you have to compile the model. For compilation, you have to pass 3 necessary parameters. The very first is what is your loss. So in model.define I will write model.compile. 3 things you have to pass. The very first, you can see it is suggesting the optimizer. So what is optimizer? Again, will be covered in the theory section. First, you have to pass the optimizer. There are multiple optimizer: SGD, RMS, crop, ADAM, ADA grade, ADA delta. Next is the loss. You can use loss is the loss function or the function which you want to, on which your model will be trained. So if you are working with numeric data, the data set, the target level is categorical cross entropy, then you have to use categorical cross entropy loss as the loss function. This is just an example. The third one is the matrix. Suppose I am writing categorical. I'm just writing an example, and then the third is the matrix. The third is the matrix that you have to pass. So in matrix is you have to pass the performance measures like accuracy, precision, recall. These are the matrix you can pass. And this loss function is, it depends on your target label. If your label is direct, like numeric data, then you can use sparse categorical. If your data is in one-hot encoding, then you have to use categorical cross entropy loss. After compilation, you have to train your model. For training, you have to use fit function, model.fit. And here in the fit function, you have to pass the data. The data will be X and Y. So our data is normalized input and Y is the output. I think this is the train X and train Y is the variables which we can pass for training. Train X and train Y. The third option is epochs you have to pass. For example, 10 epochs. That means for 10 times we want to pass the data to our model for training. This is for training. And for evaluate the performance of your model, you have evaluate function, model.evaluate. And here you have to pass the test data. Every time when you have to evaluate the model performance or report the model performance, that will be done on the test data only. You cannot report the performance of training data. I think up to this part, everything is clear. If you have any doubt, you can write in the chat box. I have completed all the necessary part for introductory session. So if you don't have any prior knowledge of Python or this these things like Keras, TensorFlow, Pandas, SKlearn, don't worry. This is to let you know what are the packages we are going to use in upcoming labs. You can practice the things from today's lab session, and in next labs you will be familiar with these things. So when you have to report the performance of any type of neural network or maybe machine learning based model, you have to report the performance on the test data. That is the evaluation. So we have splitted the data into training and testing. The training will be done on the trained data, and then the evaluation will be on the evaluation data or test data. Generally, we split the data into training, validation, and test part. So here you can pass the validation data as well. Any other query? Here you can pass like val X and val Y, which you have to create. Ma'am, I have completed all the parts. Any other questions if you have? So I think there is no more questions. So I thank all of you. You can practice from these shared material. And if you have any query, you can write it to me on my mail ID. I'm writing my mail ID in the chat box. You can ask me if you have any query related to this particular lab. You need the access of drive.